Hello, everyone, and welcome to Heart Healing Conversations. This is a place where we normalize the emotions that come with navigating life. It's also a place where grief is honored, healing is possible, and hope gently finds its way back into our hearts. Whether today finds you carrying grief, searching for hope, or simply needing a quiet moment to breathe, we're honored you're here. Today, I'm super excited because we have Ed Owens, who is the Vice President of the Grief Recovery Institute. And for many of you, you've already heard the episode that we had him on a couple weeks ago. But I'm really excited today because I'm going to tell you not only is he the Vice President of the Grief Recovery Institute, he's also my husband. And so the reason I'm telling you that is because today we're going to talk a little bit about how healing our hearts and doing the work that we do has impacted our relationship. So I'm going to say, welcome, Ed. It's so great to have you here.
I'm glad to be here, sweetie. So I can sit there and say that. So
You can say that. So I know I'm going to talk about where I was when we met. So when we met, I was going through a particularly rough time of my life. I just kind of had an ending of a relationship. And I was doing a lot of work, going to workshops, going to retreats, going to a therapist, and really trying to figure out why my relationships weren't working in my life. And that wasn't just romantic relationships. It was any type of relationship, and why I wasn't super happy. And you and I met actually in a program before we learned about the grief recovery method. And it was called Wings, and it was like a 4-day workshop, which was very helpful in many ways, but I still found that there was something missing. And then I'm going to let you tell the rest of the story of what happened after our meeting in Wings.
Sure. Well, I mean, that was where you were at was similar to where I was at. I was coming off a devastating loss that happened in my life. I was separated. I was going through a really nasty divorce. And I was searching. I was searching for something to really help me navigate life, navigate where I was at, try and figure out who I was after that loss. I was lost after that loss is a simple way to put it. And that was in every aspect of my life, personal relationships, with my kids, everything. And so the course actually was called Integrate. And it was a wonderful course. It was super helpful for me, as it was for you. And that's where we met. And there was just something about you. And so, we got to talking and everything else. And then after a period of time, we started dating. We'd been dating for a while. And in all transparency, Dawn goes, I want to introduce you to my mom. And I'm like, okay. So we go to lunch. Well, lo and behold, Dawn's mom once you're trained, you're trained. So she's a grief recovery method specialist. And so I meet Dawn's mom, and she's talking to me about this thing. And I'm like, okay. Sounds fascinating. This might be exactly what I'm looking for, because I was looking for anything that would be truly helpful to me. I went back from that lunch. I looked it up on the web. Oh my God, there's a class in 10 days. It's a week and a half away, and it's right where we live. Holy smokes. Don was living in Portland, Oregon, and I was living on the Washington side of it, just outside of Vancouver, Washington. And I'm like, wow, it's 10 days. If this was meant to be, this is a sign. And so then I signed her up, and I called and said, hey, I'm going to go do this thing. It's in 10 days. Can you get the time off? And by the way, I signed you up too. Oh, I don't have any grief. Well, if I'm going, you're going. And so she did.
And so I said, I don't have any grief. So then we show up, and I'm feeling like, okay, well, I'm going to support Ed, but I don't know that I really want to do this. And I didn't realize what I had been struggling with for so many years of my life was grief. I had believed that grief was related to death and death alone. And when I started down this path of becoming a grief recovery method specialist, I learned that grief was about so many other things. And so as I started healing my heart, I noticed the changes in all of my relationships in my life. And I know Ed will agree with me because we talk about this all the time. You know, the first few years of our relationship were very, very rocky. And I will just speak, you know, and take ownership for my part. And that's, I had so many unhealed things from my past. And what I noticed is the more healing work I did, the lighter I felt. And the more I felt like Ed and I could connect in our relationship. But when I chose to not do my work, we returned to having some of the same issues, some of the same communication problems, you know, me reacting to things. And I'm taking ownership for my part, obviously. I know Ed's going to talk about his, but I've been amazed through the years that as we've been doing more of this work and as we've both been kind of excavating, you know, the cobwebs, the things that caused us emotional pain earlier in our life, our relationship has flourished to a completely different level, a level I never thought that we would get to.
Well, I agree. And folks, if you're listening to this, you know, just because we met under great terms, it had a wonderful experience, and our relationship started out like we were connecting from that place. Sorry, folks, relationships are like the ocean. And she's one wave and I'm a different wave, and those waves do not line up all the time. That's, you know, it's kind of like the up and down thing. Like that's life, right? And then you throw in everything else. I joke around all the time. Relationships in a perfect world are messy, and they can go downhill from there. And, you know, that was our relationship. And I can honestly say that that's what it was. And a big part of why it was, and I'll take ownership for my part, you know, is I was still hurting.
Mm-hmm.
I had a lifetime of things that made, you know, we are the sum total of all of our experiences, good or bad, right? We carry all of that forward with us. In a perfect world, we heal the painful parts of ourselves so we don't carry the pain forward, and we hold on to all the sweet, beautiful, positive aspects of our life to then make us a better human being. But that's not the way that works. It did not work that way for me, right? I was dragging everything around like, you know, like a dead semi truck behind me everywhere I went. And I carried all of that into our relationship, all the things I'd been through in my life, every painful thing. Hurt people hurt others. And boy, you want to talk about, is that a simple truth in life? The more somebody is hurtful to other people is a measure of how much they are a hurting individual inside. And I was hurting. And I was hurting from a lot of things, more than just the death of my son, which started this whole thing for me. But I was hurting from a lot of things, including, like I mentioned when we started this thing, I was coming off of I was going through a divorce. And that was my second one. And so I had a lot of relationship problems from past relationships I carried into our relationship. And when Dawn would say or do something, right, I would react. But it wasn't because it was Dawn. If I'm honest with myself, I had to get honest for a long time. It's like, I don't want to do that. That's not my fault. I want to hold on to whatever. I'm hurting. I'm going to lash out. I'm defensive. I'm argumentative, whatever. You know, again, not pretty stuff. But I can look back then and know I was hurting. And until I was willing to actually get honest with myself, take some ownership and responsibility for my part in the relationship, and be willing to do something about it. Because it's one thing to say, oh, yeah, I need to do something about this, and then tomorrow I'm going to do it again. Right? You got to be willing to take that next step, folks. And I had to get to that point too. And it wasn't easy. Both of us brought a lot into this relationship. I'm not blaming Dawn for bringing things into this. I brought a ton. But hurt people hurt others. And so from that place of pain, right, I was not necessarily the best version of me every day. And to this day, folks, I'm still not the best version of me. I will say this. I have gone back. I've chosen because this relationship has value to me very much. I love this woman beyond anything, any woman I've ever had a relationship in my life. I can't believe the beautiful relationship I have with her. But in order to get there, folks, I had to go back and deal with every other painful one. So I don't carry it in our relationship. Dawn says something or does something, whatever that moment is, that's Dawn. But it's not some ghost of my past from 20 years ago rearing its ugly head, right? It's not some pain I've been carrying for all these years, taking over how I relate and interrelate with her. Like, folks, I had to deal with all that stuff. I will tell you, because I have a much better relationship. I'm a much better husband, partner, best friend, because that's just not who I am anymore.
Yeah. Well, first of all, Ed, I want to say you said today you're not the best version of yourself, and I think you're a pretty darn good version of yourself. You are an amazing husband, so thank you. But I would agree with them. Like, we've done a lot of work. There were years of our relationship where we were hanging on by a thread, where we talked about, do we really want this anymore? And why did we stay together? Well, we both agreed, like, we didn't want to try this again. Like, we didn't want to start over with somebody else. And I think because of the work we do and the dedication that we've had to our own healing, we knew that there was something beyond our pain. And we both realized that in our relationship, we were reacting to each other. We were triggers for one another, but we weren't the issue. It was something in the past. It was, my relationship when I was a teenager that had been abusive, and, Ed is nothing like that. But still, there's just little things that I would react to. Or it was my ex-husband, who was a wonderful man, but still there was things in that relationship, as every relationship, that were difficult. And so I'm reacting to something Ed's doing, and it has nothing to do with Ed. And so that's what we mean by we carry everything from our past into our current and future relationships until we do that healing work. We talk to people all the time about it's not good to replace losses. We replace losses because it's how we try and get over things. But the truth of the matter is you can't replace one partner with another. You can't replace a dog, a cat, a parent, any of those. Like, you can get a new partner, you can get a new dog, but the truth of the matter is until you heal all those things that were unfinished in the last relationship with the partner or the dog or whoever it is, you're going to bring it into the new relationship. And that's where problems arise because, we start out usually as teenagers, we have our first relationship, we get hurt. So our heart's not as open anymore. Then we go into our second, and pretty soon we're down the line 10 relationships and our heart's pretty closed. And we have all this pain that has never been dealt with. And so it's coming out with our current partner, but they were not the source of it to begin with.
Mm-hmm. No, and that's 100% spot on, right? Every relationship chooses our way at our capacity to trust. Every failed relationship, every relationship that either ends because of the relationship fails, it's like the death of the relationship, or a divorce or estrangement or whatever the reasons are. It chooses away at our ability to trust the other human being. A little bit, we lose a little bit of that. We're a little more timid because we don't like getting hurt. We're a little more protective of our heart because I'm tired of it being beaten up. And then I joke around with people all the time, but the reality of it is I allowed some of these past hurts to live rent free in my heart, right? When I was looking for a new lease on life. Well, if I want to enter a new lease, if I want to move into the next chapter of my life, I got to evict the stuff that I'm carrying with me that's holding me back. And I didn't understand that for most of my life. It was like, okay, compartmentalize it, put it in a box, right? Throw some rocks on
Well,
top of it.
I, and you and I came from similar backgrounds as far as having to compartmentalize when you were in the military and when you were in law enforcement. And then when I was a nurse, I had to compartmentalize as well because, I was working in life or death situations. I didn't have time to process those emotions because I needed to move on in the next patient and help save their life. And so, I've realized over the years the impact that my career as a nurse has had on me, the negative impact, because I didn't know how to process those emotions for so many years. And I just kept pushing them down. And over time, I became hardened to things. It became more difficult to open my heart. And then when I did, all this pain came rushing out from all these things that I'd experienced and just pushed aside because I had no tools to deal with them at the time.
Right. Same. Same. I appreciate you sharing that. And again, I know you're sharing that with the listeners, but you've shared that with me. And one of the beautiful parts of our relationship is that we do openly share. That wasn't the beginning of our relationship, folks. If you're listening to this, trust me, it was not rainbows and unicorns and all this other stuff. Don was sugarcoating some of it. We didn't talk to each other for days at a time. So, like anything else, we were hurting. And I'm grateful the fact that we are to a place in our relationship where we can. Right. And one of the things that I think is key to this is, first of all, being willing to take ownership and responsibility. What's my part? We're all taught oh, they did this, and if he wouldn't have said that, or if she wouldn't have said that, and we look to blame. And don't get me wrong, people do things to hurt the other person intentionally. I have done things to hurt the other person intentionally. Not proud of that, but something. If I'm going to talk about ownership and responsibility, I need to go first. I've done those things. And there's a lot of reasons why we do it. One is to push the other person away. They're getting too close. I don't want them to actually, truly see how much I'm hurting. So I'm going to sit there and be a jerk. Whatever the reasons are, folks, we all have them, but we do that. We lash out at the people we care about the most. And we got to take ownership and responsibility about that. So what's my part? And I can't force, again, just talking about our relationship, I can't force Dawn to do anything. And even if I could, I wouldn't want to, right? She is who she is, and I love who she is, regardless of what choices she makes. I accept that. And if there's something that goes on in our relationship that doesn't feel good, two things are important. Again, take ownership and responsibility for your part. You got to start there, right? Even if it means we pause and we both sit there and think about, or sit with our feelings and really kind of get clear on it. What's my part? Do I have a part in all of this? And allow the other person to have their experience too. And the other part that really is important when it comes to communications and relationships, right? Besides that number one thing, the other part is leaning with curiosity. And this one's hard, folks. You're in a relationship. You could think about your relationship. You don't get me wrong, taking some ownership and responsibility for our part when we're hurting. That's hard too. And then this next one's equally difficult, because I want to lean in. I want to be curious why whatever this is happening, right? Because I may not know. And that's the thing, is we're taught to react to things that happen. We are taught in life to react and respond to things people say. And when we pause, if we can teach ourselves to pause, take a deep breath, whatever works for you, but try and create a pause, and then in the pause, choose different. Well, I could just get into a huge argument in this moment, or I could be I don't know, there's something's different. It's there's something going on here. What is it? And then lean in with that curiosity. Sweetie, I can't help but notice, right? What's going on? And I give her an opportunity, right? Versus the fight being on. And then we're both going to get into a big argument. And she's going to say things, and I'm going to say things, and I'm going to regret what I said. And I can't know how she's feeling, but I know her well enough to know that there's probably going to be regrets too. But we don't want to get to that place. Nobody, again, relationships are also not about one up, one down, folks. It's not about who wins, because you win when both people win in the relationship. And so, again, from my perspective, taking ownership for where I'm at and what I'm experiencing, and being curious to try and lean into what she is experiencing so that I can better understand it and I can better relate to her. We don't have to agree. I just want to be very clear. Right? This is my perspective. Don may not agree with me. We don't have to agree. And that's okay too. What do we respect each other enough to let each other have our own opinions? Respect each other enough to let us have our own path we want to walk, and then just support each other on that path. Like that I think is where our relationship is at now. And it took a lot of work to get there, but it's a beautiful thing, folks. It really is. So anyway, that's
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. And it did take work, but it was worth it. And the work that it took was both of us healing our individual stuff. I have clients come to me all the time and they say, well, my relationship with my mom or my son or daughter or spouse is not how I want it to be. I really want them to change. And I always say, we can't make other people change. And when we change, when we heal the pain that is inside of us, our relationships change. We show up differently. Our expectations are different. And you and I always talk about expectations are premeditated resentments. So it's very hard to not have any expectations in life, but it's important to think about the fact that we set ourselves up to be hurt with our expectations. And so being a little bit more gentle with our expectations can help us navigate our life and our relationships. Mm-hmm. And when we do that healing work, we're no longer carrying those resentments around, because that's what causes a lot of the strife, struggle, disappointment in relationships, is because the next time we show up with that person, say it's mom, we're carrying forward all that pain, all those resentments, all those times that we were hurt in the past into the current conversation before it's even begun. So then mom opens her mouth and we're already upset.
Yeah, we didn't
so
hear
it's like, right. It's like erasing the chalkboard. We're starting with a clean slate, right? From right now, instead of pulling all that stuff from the past, that pain, and holding on to it. And I'll admit, sometimes in the past, it was really fun to hold on to pain. It was like, oh, I'm going to hold on to this. I'm going to be right. But it doesn't work. It doesn't create peace. It doesn't create beautiful relationships. And I think, what you've said, Ed, the work that we've done and how we now approach each other with more curiosity has created a big change in our relationship. And, I'm proud of where we are today. And we just got married in March, which I'm really proud of, because if we would have gotten married 8 years ago, it would have felt a lot different. Like, I felt when we got married, like this really honors us and all the work that we've done. And, we need the message I just want everybody to hear is, it's not about our partner. If we want to have a good partnership, a loving relationship, we need to work on ourselves, because then we choose to show up differently.
We have the capacity to show up differently. And I want to clarify too, Dawn and I say all the time, expectations 100% lead to premeditated resentment. All right? And that happens, and I want to clarify that for the listeners, right? Don and I have expectations in our relationship. That's normal.
Mm,
But those expectations are things that are communicated, that are discussed, right? That both of us understand, right? And those types of expectations, when they are shared expectations, they are discussed expectations, they're not kept to ourselves, right? It's not premeditated, right? An
right,
expectation that's not communicated is I I expect this, but I'm not going to tell her. And then she
right,
doesn't do it. And so, haha, see, she's not a good person. I was right. And then, again, that's where the premeditated, because I set her up for failure.
right.
In any good relationship, good communication includes, hey, can we talk about something? Because this is important to me. And
Hmm.
then we have that conversation. Again, we don't have to always agree, but we do want to try to understand why it's important to the other person, and where I'm at on this, or where you're at on this, or how we can. I guess I would throw out there too. Like, there's another part, and again, this is one of the other reasons why all these things come together, folks, in a relationship, right? All the things we're sharing have been the secret sauce for us. Um, and I'm a big believer too. One of the beautiful parts of our relationship is we don't look for compromise; we look for collaboration. And there's a big difference between those two terms in my mind. To compromise means, well, one of us has got to give up something and the other one's got to give up something. And both people are like, ugh, really, this is what I wanted. And so neither person truly is happy when we compromise. Yes, society tells us, marriages and romantic relationships and everything else about compromise. Um, I'd like to gently switch the paradigm, folks. I think the best relationships are about collaboration. And that means, what is it, sweetie, you want? And then she's very clear on what it is she desires in the relationship, what she wants in a relationship. Like, we're going to go on vacation. Like, what is it she wants to get out of this trip? And then it's like, okay, well, then what do I want? And then we find ways to make sure that both of us get what we want, right? Because if I do it from the other way around, then we're going back to that whole expectation thing where it's not being communicated. And now I'm resentful because I really wanted to do X, Y, or Z. It didn't
Mm,
happen, right?
yeah,
And who am I going to blame? I'm going to
yeah,
blame her. And again, remember when I said you got to start with ownership and responsibility? What's my part? God, did I actually take the time to communicate that?
hmm,
Right? Did I lean in with curiosity on what it is she what her heart wants, and try to understand why that's important to her? And then how do we collaborate to try and make sure that we build whatever it is we're doing, whether it's our day in, day out life, or it's a vacation, or it's a plan for the future. How can we do that to where everything is baked into the relationship?
yeah. Beautifully said. Thank you. So, one thing I want to share, I always share this when I'm talking about expectations becoming premeditated resentments, is there are certain expectations that we actually all should have. Because those of us who have been in a relationship that didn't honor us, that was abusive, like, it is okay to have the expectation that your partner is going to treat you with kindness.
100%.
That expectation, you shouldn't even have to verbalize that. So I always like to throw that out, because if a listener is someone who has been through any type of abusive situation, hearing, well, expectations lead to premeditated resentments, that may trigger them. And I don't want that to be the case, because I 100% believe that we all need to have the expectation that others are going to treat us kindly. And if they don't, then we can choose to not be a part of that relationship. So I just wanted to throw that in. But, I hope that this conversation really leaves you as a listener realizing the importance of your own healing, and how when you heal those things that have caused pain in your heart from past experiences, it can greatly alter your relationships. And that's why Ed and I wanted to do this episode, because we feel so strongly about this work and how has saved our relationship and has helped us thrive. I mean, we are in such a different place because of all the healing work we've done. And like Ed said, it hasn't been easy, but would I do it again? In a heartbeat. It has been so worth it to now have a life that I'm proud of every single day. I have joy in my life. I feel like I'm thriving. I'm no longer just surviving and getting through my days. I am genuinely happy.
And I am as well. Folks,
So we're going to leave you with that. Go ahead.
I want to say when we choose to invest in our relationships, the more we invest in our relationships, the better relationships we will have. All right. And again, that's my wish for all of you listening, is that you can choose to want to invest in the relationships that are in your life right now. And you can choose to do the things, maybe some of the things that we've talked about in this podcast, right, to improve the quality of the investment you have made in the person who is in your life right now. Or perhaps you can gain some insight from what we've shared to start to position yourself for the relationship yet to come into the future. And, it's made me a better partner, a better husband, a better friend, a better dad, just a better human being. And ultimately, that's my wish for all of you listening. If I or Dawn can be of any assistance, I'll speak for myself. If I can be of any assistance, please reach out and let me know. And for those of you who are an avid follower of Dawn, thank you for following and following her work and everything that she's doing. And I know if you reach out to her, she will absolutely be there to help you.
Thank you, Ed. That was so lovely what you said. And I agree. All the work that I've done on myself has made me also a better mom, a better daughter, a better partner, a better friend. And it's allowed me to shine my light in ways that I never thought that I'd be able to. So thank you so much for joining us this week. And Ed, I appreciate your time that you took with us today and sharing all your wisdom and insight. And I hope to have you back again soon. For all of our listeners, if today's episode spoke to your heart, we'd love for you to subscribe, share it with your loved ones, or leave a comment. And until next time, please be gentle with yourself. Keep healing one step at a time. And remember, you never have to walk this journey alone. All right, friends. Till next time, take care.
Bye, folks.